Okay, well, an ode to that iconic building and what an iconic journey it's been. But let's also bring on board Rajesh Palve and talk about what he's making of the market right now. Rajesh, hi, good morning. Good to have you on the show. Once again, a long weekend, a lot of chop and churn for global markets. What is your own sense on how one should look to trade the index today?
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So, looking at the overall setup, that this bullish momentum is likely to continue further higher, and we may see Nifty to scale further towards 23,600 to 23,800 in the continuation of this up move. We have already crossed the major call concentration area of 23,200 on a closing basis. Nifty is comfortably now negotiating with its 100-day moving average. Bank Nifty is comfortably trading above to 200-day moving average and now scaled up to the level of 53,000 level. So I think both indices are looking bullish at this juncture for near-term perspective, and I think one should hold the position on the long side. Even in the minor decline, one can add position also. Till Nifty is holding about 23,200, one should remain on the long side of trade. Possible target 23,650 to 23,800 for Bank Nifty. Stop losses are now placed at 52,700. Till these levels are intact, I think here also we may see traction towards 53,500 to 53,600 in the continuation of this up move.
All right, that's the day coming in on the index. Let's watch out for that. But let's also welcome Amnish Agrawal, Head of Research at Prabhudas Leela. They're on the show right now. Hi, Amnish. Good morning. Good to be speaking with you. Firstly, give us your sense on the market mood and momentum, because what we are seeing is that India has been one of the strongest markets which has actually recouped all of its April losses. And what we are seeing is that a strong momentum, at least on the benchmark indices. But help us understand that how do you sense the market mood and what factors could actually drive the markets from now?
Yeah, hi. So two things. First, that if you look at the Indian market since the beginning of the current year, the markets actually have been very weak relative to most of the global markets. And secondly, with the major impact of the Trump tariffs having paused on India for the next 3 months, so markets have gained some sort of a momentum and they have recouped most of the ground which we had lost due to this volatility. Now, going forward, I think if you look at on the domestic side, I think the domestically the things don't change. There have been tax cuts, the capex spending has been going up, and also the announcement on the monsoon has been on the positive side that this year we are going to have good rainfall. So the domestic use remains positive. The FI selling, I think from the last couple of days, FIs have been buying in the Indian market, and this is after a massive selling which you have seen after say 4 to 5 months. So in the near term, if the FIs remain positive, and given the fact that we have corrected meaningfully from the peak, so there is a good scope for the market to get a reasonable support over there. But I think the major factor to watch out for here would be what happens on the tariffs at the global level, how the global growth shapes up, and what is in store for the coming few months. For the near term, yes, the momentum seems to be on the positive side.
Right. Amnish, two big ones. And I'm not going to talk about IT first. Let's first talk about the private banks. Both HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank due to report their numbers over the weekend. Tell me what's the expectation, and are they going to live up to the fact that these have been within the leadership role when it comes to their stock performance pretty much through and through?
You see, today people are not looking at the quarterly number for banks. Okay, the credit growth, if you look at, say, previous quarter has been lower on a sequential basis. Even now with the interest rate cuts, people are expecting the NIMs to soften. So not only for this quarter, if you look at, say, next 12 months or so, the expectation is not very high on the profit front, but the banks today in the, you can say, interest rate cutting, downward interest rate scenario, they look reasonably poised because the valuations are significantly lower than what they were trading at the peak of the cycle. Now, in this quarter in particular, I think 2 to 3 things people will be watching out for. What is the one big thing is, particularly for HDFC, how is the LDR moving? Because the LDR is something which has been restraining their growth rate. And ICICI, if you look at, I think their asset quality has been absolutely great. Now, if these two banks in particular, they don't show any slippage on the asset quality, there is no impact of the unsecured lending, and the guidance for the next year, it remains intact. I think in the current backdrop of the markets, these banks can continue to outperform even from here.
Okay, numbers over the weekend. And if you trade today, well, remember, markets are off. And you come back, you would be greeted by these numbers. And finally, HDFC Bank is outperforming. Kunal, 1900.
Yeah.
1900. Who would have thought it will be close to 1900?
In fact, yesterday I think the stock made an all-time high. It just about touched its all-time high.
HDFC Bank at an all-time high. Say it again. बोलना ही भूल गए थे तो मुझे लगता है होगा ही नहीं कभी.
It's taken 3 years.
5 years maybe.
3.
What, to come back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's when they announced the merger.
Yeah.
It's
I think
underperformed.
merger went up to 2000 plus, I think.
No, nearby, because it's at an all-time high.
No, the stock is...
2021 is when they announced, right? Or
22.
2022.
April.
March.
April is what I remember.
Yeah.
Early in the morning, the news comes.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Same time. Right now. Yeah.
So much so
Around
for
9
history and
AM.
trivia. Amish, let's look at the smaller banks now. Everyone knows that there is a reason why you should be buying larger banks. CASA, brand, technology, valuations. But if HDFC Bank has hit an all-time high, do you think the Piper effect could now be visible on a federal bank? It could be now visible on a Karur Vysya Bank. It will spill through, let's say, to a IndusInd Bank. I mean, do you think there's rally now coming down to smaller banks or mid-tier banks also?
And again, that is typically what happens in banking, that it always goes like a ladder. First, there you can say top 2-3 banks move up and then it is followed by the rest. Now, if you look at say, HDFC and ICICI are making the highs, maybe you can say partly news driven, but if you look at Axis, you look at IndusInd, you look at Kotak, I think all the frontline 5-6 banks, they have been doing well. And so I think that your trend is actually seeping even at the low levels. So I think the broader banking sector as a whole is doing well and is gaining ground. Yes, if you go down, you will get some banks in the private sector also, say something like Axis at maybe 1.2, 1.3, IndusInd is now sub 1 book, and some of the larger PSU banks also. But as of now, I think it is more concentrated on the PSU side. Some of the smaller private banks might also, you can say, join this trade. But definitely, I think starting from say ICICI and Kotak, I think which started it, I think now it is spreading, I think, more and more deeper as we go along.
Rajesh, is it time to look outside the comfort of the big 4 banks? The same question which I asked, Amish.
I think yes, because Bank Nifty is clearly in the uptrend, and we believe that in this momentum, maybe we may see a new all-time high for Bank Nifty also. So I think the other banks are also going to participate in this upward momentum. Yes, one can focus on IndusInd Bank also. Federal Bank is also looking bullish on the technical structure. Even we have seen a traction in PSU Bank also. And most of the PSU bank have recovered sharply in last couple of days. So I think small PSU banks are also participating in this journey. I think Union Bank, Bank of India, Indian Bank, these all banks can be looked at for this upward momentum in the near-term perspective. So I think whole banking space is looking attractive for near-term trading perspective. Federal Bank, yes, one can focus on these banks. Even Bandhan Bank is also, trying to, negotiating with its immediate supply zone. And I think here also we may see, upward momentum if it's sustainable 160 level. I think here also we may see traction towards 175.
Where was the sound coming from? Rajesh's monitor, is it? Rajesh, you got a beep sound coming from your side?
Beep sound, yeah, it's coming from my...
So what, 9 o'clock time to go to the dealing room? Okay. I'm just going to change gears and talk about IT. Nobody likes IT. Everyone has a reason why you should not like IT. Some would say US, some would say valuations, some would say AI. But Amnish, when a sector is disregarded like the way IT is, do you think it will sooner than later follow into the value trap, into the value basket? Because IT companies are still generating a lot of cash. They regularly keep on doing buyback. These are businesses which are still growing. So maybe not today, after Infosys guidance, Amish, is IT a go-to sector?
You see, I'm not very constructive on IT because if you exclude the current situation, even in the past few years, the growth rates have not been that encouraging. After the 2021-22 kind of a bump, last 3 years have not been great for IT companies. And there are few factors which are structural, few factors which are cyclical. And I think the way your global economy is likely to shape the way the tariff wars are going on, if there is continued pressure in US and UK, I think the IT services could have a tough time in FY26. Now, if you look at the value trap, if you look at, say, past, say, 10, 15 years also, many of these IT companies, barring a few, you can say, mid-cap IT companies, their growths have not been that great. Now, they are cash generating. Yes, the multiples have corrected to a more reasonable level. So if the market momentum continues, I think they should be able to hold on to where they are. They can give you a little return, but I don't see a possibility of IT stocks actually outperforming majorly till the time there is more clarity on what happens on the global side, because these are not India plays. So the large markets for IT companies are US and Europe, and I think both these territories are going to have significant trouble if the current situation continues over the next 6 to 12 months.
The news, I think, has come out. What we were talking about, IDFC Bank, they have issued CCPS. No, sorry. Aggregate fundraise is 7,500 crores. This is preferential, is what I think I can make out. I am waiting for the news. CCPS is preferential shares. Just go Google and check it up, please. Yeah. CCPS is, I think, current C Platinum aggregate funds to raise 7,500 crores. I mean, markets knew this was coming, but this tier 1 capital which straight away comes into the balance sheet. Amish, IDFC Bank has gone through what could be called as a good and a rough patch. Last couple of quarters have been rough for them. While they've been growing their unsecured balance sheet, they've also got hit because of this MFI problem. The fact they're raising capital, does that mean they're hungry for growth or they're desperate for tier 1?
I think the tier 1 has not been an issue for IDFC Bank. It is one of the banks which is having good tier 1 already. And if you look at, say, yes, in the last 6 months, every bank which has more on the unsecured side, more on the MFI side, they have been on the receiving end. But I think if you go purely by tier 1, I don't think there was any big need to raise the capital. But I think these days, I think the banks have become quite conservative. They are growing. For example, if you look at top 5, 6 banks or 7 banks, excluding the PSUs, I think the growth rate for IDFC perhaps would be the best in the lot. In whether you look at, say, their book, whether you look at the way they are getting the deposits and even the CASA. I think to me it seems to be more like that you are eyeing big growth going forward, and that is why you are trying to augment your balance sheet.
I think the price conversion is at about 60 rupees. Okay, so I'll take that point forward now with Kunal, because he's been liking IDFC Bank for a while now, right, Kunal? 55, 56, you bought it first.
Correct. I still maintain that buy, Nikunj, and I believe that the stock is due for a massive upside. Cyclical, charts for IDFC First Bank. This phenomenon of 15 to 16 months of consecutive correction, not a consecutive correction, but at least a downtrending correction for IDFC First Bank. And then the long-term charts or the major trendline support, which we see this, when the stock was at 20-25 rupees, many years back. From there, the stock has been going through a very strong trendline support. This time around also, when the stock was at 55-ish odd levels, the stock managed to come back to that trendline, retest. So I think all of those factors indicate that we are looking at a potential zone where the value could emerge for IDFC First Bank, and from a long-term play, this could actually turn out to be a potential, strong up move.
Okay. Rajesh, I'll just get a closing comment from you on IDFC Bank. Could that be the trade of the day?
Yeah, definitely. There is a breakout on IDFC First Bank, and I think the way weekly charts are shaped up, yes, if it's open above 63 level, I think yes, there could be upward momentum towards 68 to 70 kind of zone. Stock is looking bullish on a weekly as well as on the daily chart. Stock is comfortably holding above all its near-term, short-term moving averages. So I think one can initiate long trade with stop loss of 61 for upside target of 68 to 70.
Watch out for IDFC First Bank in trade today at 63.5 was yesterday's closing at 60 rupees. The company will be issuing an CCPS, and 8% dilution is expected, and two investors are coming in, namely Currency Investments as well as Platinum Invictus are the two companies that will be investing in this particular issue. So let's watch out for IDFC First Bank in trade today. But with this, Rajesh as well as Amnish, we let you go on that note. Thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking with us this morning.